Welcome back to Case Closed, Anime Review, episode 275. Those of you probably wondering, Nick, what are you wearing? Is that Scooby in your shirt? Yes, it is. You might be thinking, this looks like no t-shirt no one wear. Well, this is basically casual wear, apparently. I put it on because, well, why not? Yeah, why not? So, we're here discussing the 27th movie for the Case Closed movies for the movies for Case Closed, known as the $1 Million Pentagram. We start with a flashback where we have this guy called Hiriki, which I saw this guy like, wait, this looks like a guy from Kentama. Well, this one is based on the real life historical figure who did exist, and yes, he did exist in Kentama, though he was a very serious character in that one. This guy was a freaking murderer. This guy killed government assassins who were sent to kill him for reasons. And he kills me with his new sword he got, and leave a pentagram behind, which was still in this folding wall. So, and then he talked about the present day. So, now, by the way, this movie does not have like a big explosion sequence like a lot of the other movies did. I would say there's mostly put a lot of fighting. Yeah, something Case Closed does not have. A lot of big fight sequences. And a lot of this movie is, well, we feature the Kaido Kid, obviously, which is, by the way, prior to this movie, they decided to re-release Kaido Kid and the Touched Lips, that two-parter, and they basically made a special in that two-parter, and there's a bunch of references to previous episodes in the series, like in the case of the previous two movies. Like, we have to do follow-ups with basically the show. This one particularly is a follow-up to not only that one, but also, I kid you not, they references later in the movie, in the subtitles, thank God they referenced it, I would have completely forgot about this. They bring back a character who last appeared back in episode 145, which was released prior to this movie, 25 years prior to this movie. Back in 1999. Yep. Basically, there's also a murder. Basically, we start out with where, Conan's because he's a kid killer. He doesn't really kill the kid, basically, just a nickname. He just basically is how he kills his crimes. So, and then, of course, basically, Dora shows up, easily finds out, and he wants vengeance on Kaido Kid for tricking him to kiss it, which is kind of weird. And then he ends up fighting with a sword fight and knocking his head off. And then he sees Kaido Kid's face. And it looks like Shichikudo. Yeah, this actually plays into the epilogue. The whole thing with the face thing. And then there's another character who I was surprised to see this girl. Because, well, I'll get back to her. So, yeah. And basically, it's like, he missed basically a kendo match because he was looking for Kaido Kid. He was actually looking for a place to confess to Katsuya. So, by the way, Sanko does appear in this movie via Zoom call. We do see a brief cameo by her parents, who have no speaking parts. And mostly, but she is there just to exposit on some stuff, basically, her group is part of. And it makes sense the fact that she's there because it's Kaido Kid. Virtually almost every single time he's in the series, Sadako is generally always there. But I gotta mark this out. This is the first time this features her uncle. Her uncle is not in this movie. The inspector is. Yes, just by sheer coincidence. And here's something by weird coincidence about this movie. This movie came out like a year after Kaido Kid's last appearance in the show, and then of course they did another one just this year, with featuring Return to Kaido Kid, the most recent case he's involved in. So the whole thing is basically hands and katanas, and there's a lot of investigating, a lot of puzzles here, really cool stuff. I love all the puzzle stuff here, and all about like we get some sword fighting here. We see a guy being attacked. You see how he can be attacked by somebody who put a transmitter on a katana he stole. He's like, why are you stealing his katanas? Possibly treasure. But he's a jewel thief. Why does he have this for? Well, apparently the guy who had one of these swords apparently once had rumored to have some gold, except the gold thing is actually we'll get to that. That's only the inspector who pops up in the episode prior again, and more kind of forgot him. But we do see a brief cameo by Conan's parents. I thought this is kind of funny. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that was actually him disguised as Maury. That was kind of funny. The fact that they had to do that, I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, that was so funny. And then yeah. And of course, they do this really cool like investigate. There's also this gangster. Well, actually, it's more like supposedly simply a businessman who's also arms dealer. So I know as a merchant of death because he sells arms. And of course, his guns, obviously. And they visit the guy who has two of the swords. Apparently, a former teacher who does practice the sword thing. By the way, Concha meets him. Meets him. Like thinks also like Heiji, and yeah, he's using a katana, practicing like, oh, it sounds like him, but his sounds better. Like, oh, let's have a match, but not on the front line. Go inside. Lots of basically talking here for this movie, and eventually, so in order to find out where this treasure is, so first we go to the temple, which is run by a priestess, which we actually get disguised up as Mori. By the way, the priestess is a beautiful woman. Oh my god, this one was gorgeous. And it is something, though, the fact this wasn't actually Mori. Because if this was him, he'd be perfect all over this woman because this woman is so drop-dead gorgeous. He'd be like, go out with me, or something like that. Yes. Yeah, and of course, also part of this, basically, like, I think it was, one of the people who actually faked being injured, he escapes. And then, of course, basically, like, he later gets shot by his rival. So basically, Kaio Kid has to stop with his card gun. And, of course, the inspector himself is shot. So, like the case of Moore would happen in the 25th movie, where he's basically taken out because of a gunshot wound. And then, this I thought was really interesting. Anako shows up in this movie. I'm like, what? She's here? Yes. Making her first appearance in an anime form since the end of Magic Kaido 1412. Yes, that short-lived anime, which I did do a review of, was an amazing series. It's a shame it's not season 2. It's like, they did the most of the manga up a lot more than the original specials. Like at one point, I think they were readapting chapters from the show and adding original content. Yeah, it's a shame this one's never finished. So nice to see her again, and of course, well, Heiji points out though the Cow Kid looks exactly like Conan. Conan looks like the Cow Kid. Anko points out he looks like the Cow Kid. And here's a weird little factor when it comes to Anko. You see, she has appeared in Case Closed twice. First in episode 76 was, I believe, was the debut of the Cow Kid in the show. And then she returned against like episode 200 and something, which involved the guy who runs the Black Organization, his mansion. Sorry about that. Yeah, runs his and it's like she just completely forgot the fact that she has met him before. Yeah, completely forgot that. Sorry about that sound. That was nothing. Yeah, completely forgot the fact basically they met before. And like, oh, you look like my childhood friend. Now it explains the epilogue. I'll get to that. So then, of course, the Cow Kid is lured out of this. Of course, they go to this area, and in order to find the treasure, of course, basically his goons basically decide to attack Conan and Heiji. Like there's even like a car chase in the movie, which was really cool. And because, of course, they had the thing the katana looking for was there, it was not. It was actually, believe it or not, they hear what happens to the katana at the end of the movie, which I'll get to that. So Then we have another action sequence where you have, by the way, Oka, basically someone who's an acquaintance of Hiji. He shows up a couple times. Second time is like, oh, you have him basically showing up here with to be a bunch of guys with his basically his kendo sword. And he's like, oh, I brought someone really strong. And I'm like, what? They brought this guy in? Not Oka's here. By the way, also, Momoji basically is going around Japan looking for Hiji. Or he's like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. Yeah. They bring in, I kid you not, a character who was last seen during the Kaito Kid, which probably is a reference that here. I'm like, so it's Tenkashi Anamaru, who Gisho Aima's second series, yeah, he was the main villain. Here he's basically like he's very much a gentleman. Yeah, and last time he ever appeared in anything related to Case Closed was back in episode 916, which was the Kendo trip, which came back in 2018. That was the last time he ever appeared. And they remastered the episode last year because of this movie. I'm like, really? They remastered this two-parter just because his character's popping the movie again? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Of course, it's a really cool. He had been basically just plowing through a bunch of bad guys in this comedic sequence and beat a bunch of like 20 bad guys. So Conan chases after the leader, who basically kidnapped one of the soldiers who's actually framed for murder, because of course the father actually killed the guy. Then the course says, oh yeah, apparently he wanted to destroy the treasure. So then the guy escapes in custody, flies a plane supposed to crash where apparently people are. So like also Hiji follows them. They have a surf on top of the plane. Then he's saved by the Kaito Kid, who doesn't steal anything, by the way. And of course the guy is arrested. The guy too. Excuse me. And of course the father is arrested too for murder. So in terms of the treasure is a choreograph. Yeah. Treasure's bogus. You're like, what? Yeah. And then, of course, all the bad guys are arrested, of course. And then if you go, does Conan have any relatives? I don't know. And then we cut to his father, who mentions he has a twin brother who hadn't spoken to in 20 years. And it turns out his twin brother is the guy who is the Kaito Kid. It's his actual father. Yes. A guy by the name of Tochi Karaba. Yes, this movie reveals that Seichi Kudo is his nephew. You're like, what? Yeah, seriously. And then, of course, basically, like, also they have this bumbling detective who was out of town. But then it turns out it's... So then he unmasks himself to reveal he's actually Kito Karabu, who is a villain, who is a supporting character from the Magic Kaito series. And by the way, this was his first ever appearance outside of Magic Kaito stuff. He never appeared in the Magic. He did appear in Magic Kaito 1412 in about 3 episodes. In the manga, he appeared in 3 chapters, which for the last 2 episodes of the main series. He never appeared in the original anime. Never did. Probably because it wasn't Vince yet. The character made his debut in issue 31. Chapter 31. But yeah, great to see him here. It is by far a really good movie. Got a good plot here. Nothing over the top, no explosions per se. But I would say the only major stunt we have here is a car chase. And of course some bombings here, obviously, but damn. Yeah, it was Yokishia basically, who turns out he actually was out of town the whole time. But this action movie was, like I said, was really good. Um, so, does that mean that possibly Anko, because she looks exactly like Rand, which, by the way, no one points this out though about her? Yeah, no one points out this girl looks exactly like Rand. Yes. Like, is she in fact, like, related? Like, her father related to, um, Congo? No. Not really. But like I said, damn good movie. I enjoyed this. Oh, yeah. So, not really much else to say about this movie. But with that, basically, I am mostly caught up movies, not all of them per se. There's still technically one left. And those are shorter than the last few, but basically, if I brief it here, it's kind of what happened movie. Yeah, but not much to say this movie. I give roughly I gave it 9.5, but did feel a step down from the last three movies. That was basically my only issue with it. It would feel like a step down because we didn't have an over-the-top sequence like with the last movie. It was not much. There was excitement in the end. I liked the excitement they had, but at least it wasn't a carbon copy of the last movies, which got praised for that. I like in the last two movies, we were referencing like one episode. Here, referencing, oh my gosh, like several different episodes. Basically, it's like we bring up the target lips, the other case, like several different cases here. Oh my gosh, it is basically like. Also, apparently, first movie takes place in Hakode. Last was the 8th movie released back in 2004. So, first time in 20 years they've been there. But also, apparently, during this movie, visitors have increased rapidly, which had previously decreased due to the pandemic, obviously. Apparently, a movie had collaborations with Godzilla X Kong New Empire. Interesting. Highest grossing film in Japan of last year, and 9th highest grossing film in Japan overall. Made, roughly, according to this, opening day, 960 million yen. Overall, it made 15.8 billion yen. Let's see. Means it made 108,194,352, which that's not bad for an anime movie. Here it's basically like, I'm sure the budget probably wasn't high, but God praise, that's actually really good. Apparently we had grossed 160 million worldwide. Awesome. But yeah, not much of this movie. As to next, I'll probably get a chance to do the Apothecary Diaries next. But I'm reading light novels first. I'll comment a little bit. I'll probably also hope get a chance to do some Doctor Who as well. Okay, the next video. Bye.